Hello, welcome back to another episode of Elephant in the Room. How's everybody? Hope you have a great Tuesday and we have a great show lined up today. How are you, Taranjeet?
Very well, Muihan. Thank you very much. It's a great evening. I'm certainly looking forward to this evening. There's a lot planned out for this whole new segment as what we discussed yesterday, and this segment is predominantly around the today and now. It is not about the reality of tomorrow. It's not about a new norm. It's the reality of today, and that's what this whole thing is about. Muihan?
Yeah, so as we mentioned that we have already talked about what needs to be done, how is the impact to the ground, what it does to a certain job, certain levels. So this week we are focusing on embarking specifically in moving forward. How does this translate in terms of skills needed in a very much uncertain future that we are seeing unfold before us? So what are the things that we need the leaders to be doing differently? We need the business or managers to be doing differently. And for that, we have a very special guest today, Taranjeet.
Excellent, thank you. So we have Andrew Lau joining us. Andrew is the CEO of ThinkCodex, a gamification company that focuses on behavioral change for business results. He leads an award-winning gamification design company. He's a computer science graduate by training, but he has spent over 10 years understanding human psyche, human psychology, and leadership science. Andrew is also the chair of the International Gamification Confederation. That's a big word. It's called GameFed, a collective of gamification experts, academia, and professionals around the world. He speaks globally in Europe and Asia. He writes for The Star, he writes for The Edge, and he appeared on BFM as an expert in the area of gamification. What an amazing individual to have on the channel, Wihan. Andrew, we welcome you to Elephant in the Room.
Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hi, Muihan. Hi, Taranjeet. Nice to see all of you.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us, Andrew.
Sure.
So, Muihan, over to you, buddy.
Sure. So we welcome our guest once again, Andrew Lau from ThinkCodex. And for those who have just joined us in Elephant in the Room, warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. So let me just quickly start off with the first question, Andrew, and then maybe we can have a further discussion on that. Maybe can we get you to describe the business landscape that you are witnessing, especially in your particular niche industry, and also by interacting with your customers who are all business in different form and shapes, what are the skill set that is required by their leaders as well as their employees alike?
Okay. So I think if you look at the whole area of business landscape, what has changed is that there are three things we need to understand how businesses work. So firstly is value creation. How does a business create value? Secondly is value delivery. How do you deliver that value that you created? Thirdly is value capture. How do you differentiate yourselves? Now, when we talk about value creation, not much has changed. I mean, if you're in training business, you're trying to deliver training, right? Now, that may not change, but the utility of the value has changed. And what happens is that has affect the value of the product or the service you're trying to deliver. Now, how has this changed? Because obviously the delivery channel has changed, right? And because it has changed in this regards, especially towards digital. For example, us being instructor-led or us being more of experience-led might not work so much more in the digital format. So this has diminished your value, but you're still trying to provide the same type of value that you had before this. Now, the third one obviously is value capture. What is the type of value that you have and you're trying to differentiate and capture over there? So in essence, value creation has not really changed, but it's affected by value delivery. And because value delivery has changed, what's going to happen is that you're trying to find new ways to capture the value. So what was used to be your niche market now has kind of opened up in a sense. If, for a simple example, if you think about it, if it's instructor-led training virtually, what's to stop someone from US or someone from Europe to do that same thing with you, apart from just cost, right? Because previously you need to be in the classroom and it doesn't make sense for someone to fly in, but now as the value delivery has changed in that sense, and the ways of managing has changed as well. So right now everyone is going through a period of experimentation. Those who are a bit more forefront has moved beyond experimentation to a bit towards knowing what they know, what works and what doesn't work. And third and finally, I think it's the whole area of reprioritization of skills. Now, a lot of people ask me, especially we work with a lot of leaders at the corporate world, is there new skill sets that we need to learn? Is there something new that we have not seen before? I would say no, because whatever skills that we see has already been there before, but now due to the situation that we face, it has taken on a different priority. So it's all about getting leaders to reprioritize certain skill sets more than the others. So certain skill sets are not to say no longer relevant, but we're just saying that it's just how you want to prioritize. Just like time management, it's about how you prioritize task, not really about time management itself. It's more of time prioritization. Yeah.
Well done, well done. And I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. So we currently are seeing a very exacerbated change that is taking place over a shorter duration. But we have been witnessing this change for the last 10 years, the last decade and a half. But right now, it has come so fast, so quickly, and it just hit us in the face. So, on that note, let me ask you another follow-up question. What would be the critical skills, given your experience within Europe and Asia and all the clients that you're dealing with? What would be some of the critical skills that are playing out in today's uncertain times, Andrew?
Okay, so initially there were what I call coping skills, right? So coping skills was when in the initial phase you were like trying to manage the whole situation. You're trying to make sense of what's happening. So a lot of skills like resilience, a lot of skills like physical wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness. Now that has kind of taken a back seat now, so people are moving forward, right? Now the top 5 skills, what we see now is agility, right? The ability to adapt, because what happens is day by day, whether through regulations, whether through consumer markets, things are changing, right? So you must be agile to adapt. Now the second skill is the whole area of productivity. Now if you because 50 to 75% of staff in organizations are still working remotely, and it's not if productivity is affected, it's how much productivity is affected, right? And what happens is that if your people are not productive, it doesn't matter if you have a great product, great service, nothing's going to happen, right? So that's the second one. The third one is, I think, the whole area of analytics. Now the more we move on to digital platforms, the more data we'll get, data which we might not have got before, now we have. Now, what are we going to do about the data, right? How do we make insight? How do we get insights? How do we make meaning of this data, right? So those who can make meaning and get insights and turn them into actions or follow-on solutions, those are the ones that will thrive, right? The fourth one is empathy. We need to understand human behavior and how it's affecting purchasing decisions, how it's affecting learning decisions in that sense. Last but not least, I think is the whole area of digital literacy, right? We're not saying programming and such, that's not it, but the whole area of understanding what marketing channels to use and just being able to use it mainly maybe at a nominal level, so delivery platforms and such. So you need to know and focus on a few. The mistake that we see is a lot of organizations are using too many digital platforms, and that becomes a issue of dilution. So you become kind of good at certain platforms, kind of good here, kind of good there, and in the end you're unable to deliver your value. So remember, your value creation, you must master your value delivery, which is the channels in that sense. Yeah. So these are the 5 things that we see: agility, productivity, analytics, empathy, and digital literacy. Yeah.
Good, good.
Very
So,
nice.
very quick one. Thank you for the 5, Andrew. Very quick shout out to all our audience who have tuned in. So for those who have just come on, welcome back to Elephant in the Room. We are very happy to see all of you here with us every day at 6 o'clock to 6:30 from Monday to Friday. Just for your information, Andrew, as well as Taranjeet, surely you know, we are doing our 35th episode today. All right. So a big, great clap to all of us for achieving this milestone. And for our audience, if you can just type clap, CLAP, on the comment section to celebrate our great milestone, it'll be very, very appreciative. All right. Quick shout out to all our audience. We have definitely my good brother, KJ Ko. Thanks for tuning in. We also have Sujit and Bhavan from Perth, who's our daily audience. Welcome back. Definitely, we have Dr. Michael Heng from Singapore. Welcome, welcome, and we appreciate your continuous support. And Andrew, you know this guy, Mr. Zorak Chong, who is coming on tomorrow. Sure. Thanks, Zorak, for coming on. We also have Sulim. Sulim, thanks for being with us. And yes, so maybe we might just want to also take this opportunity to invite our fellow audience to actually also start posing some question to you, Andrew, and in the areas maybe related to what you do specifically. Although I think skill set is the one that we have cleared it off, but let's now maybe just talk a bit about gamification. And let's not assume here, maybe just to start it off, maybe you can share with our audience the perspective of gamification and gamification design development programs. Maybe you want to do that at a very high level?
Sure. So I think one of the main issues now that we are facing industry-wide as we move more to digital is the whole area of engagement, right? You could do classroom-style teaching for 8 hours one day, and people will still be engaged. But I mean, you do anything between 2 to 3 hours of video conferencing, instructor-led, there's going to be a lot of issues with fatigue. There's going to be a lot of issues with getting the engagement. People just are unable to engage beyond that. And gamification is the whole discipline where it focuses a lot on human motivation and human engagement. Now, if you think about it, all games requires only volunteers, right? So nobody is really forced to play games. So if people are engaged enough to want to play a game, so that means that there's something right about the game itself, right? So nobody's forced to play games in that sense. So in the whole area of this, since we are facing an engagement issue, gamification becomes a very crucial methodology, not to circumvent or not to take over whatever that's existing, but to really just layer over it and become a complementary service or solution that helps to create a higher level of engagement across what you're trying to deliver. Yep.
Okay. So maybe then let's focus that to the particular organizations that you've been working with. What would be their challenges look like? And as well as putting in this solution, or maybe is part of the overall solution, may not be the only solution, I understand. And how does that look like? Maybe you can share that with us, Andrew.
Yeah, I think by far and large, not only speaking from my side, but speaking from what I understand in the industry itself, what happens is that the approach that works best is what we call a blended approach. Right, so you cannot go fully digital, you cannot go fully self-directed, neither can you just go fully just instructor-led on a virtual platform. So what really works is what we call short bursts, right? So micro-learning, so instructor-led micro-learning. So this is where we get what we call high impact, low frequency. So not a lot of this, but once in a while you get this. Then you pair it with what we call a digital gamified program, right? To complement the instructor-led. So this is what we call mid-level impact, but high frequency. So you can create challenges every day where people can complete, right? A few challenges every day. And then what happens is that as they complete it, they learn and they reflect based on whatever that they've been taught by the trainer itself. And what happens is when you pair both together, you have something that's high impact, low frequency, but also something that's mid impact but high frequency. So that helps to craft the learning across a certain period of time. Now, what works best usually is somewhere between 2 weeks to 6 weeks. That's what we found with a lot of our clients. That's what they like, essentially. And the second one also is, I think, a lot of organizations are looking to what we call short-term and low commitment models, right? Especially when it comes to digital learning. So in the sense of traditional LMSs, does not really work because it requires you to commit to a few thousand courses and to sign a 2-year contract, 1-year contract. And what happens is that, what you need to learn today may not be the same in 3 months' time. So what you need something is very rapid, right? Something that doesn't require to commit to subscribe for a few hundred of your workers, and each one have to pay a license. So that doesn't really work in that sense, right? So you need something that's very agile, right? And you also want something that's not required to do IT integration to your infrastructure, right? So a lot of the bigger LMSs, they require, even though they may be cloud-based, they require a lot of integration, and that talks about two things, right? So you cannot implement fast, and secondly, it's cost. And then, of course, right now, IT is facing a lot of requests from marketing, from sales. The last thing they want to do is to integrate the LMS and, get this thing. And things will move too slow. So that's what we've seen. So it's a blended approach, but it's also what we call a low commitment, short-term approach. So something that is more guerrilla style, campaign style, that works really well. Yeah.
Got it. Now, I like your 5 traits or the 5 skills that you talked about earlier. And my question to that is, how can we, moving forward in this reality of ours, how can we go out there and essentially develop these skills in a very quick pace? And given the fact that 75% of my workforce is working from home, given the fact that 50% of my workforce is not coming in at any one point in time. So what can I now do to ensure that we are practically able to impart these skills, not only to talk about sustainability, Andrew, but actually to talk about thriving in this regard? What are your thoughts there?
I think firstly, there needs to be what we call a temperature check. And I don't mean the whole area of your body temperature. You need to understand where your organization is at. Now, if you don't understand where you're at, it's very difficult to develop programs. You may be developing at this level, but your people may be stuck down here, right? In that sense. So you need to, first thing first, measurements, right? So you need a program that can provide measurements, right? So once you're able to measure, then you need to know what is important to you. Obviously, you have all sorts of requests, all sorts of needs. What will be required to not just help you, limp through the whole period, but rather thrive through the whole period, right? So once again, you need a bit of focus. Now, because of your workforce is comprises of high-level talent and also the masses, you need to do a bit of a different approach. So a bit more focused with the high-level talent, a bit more high-touch, right? A bit more instructor-led, a bit more guided with coaching and stuff like that. But with the masses, they also need development. So a bit more self-directed, but through gamified, because if it's just all about watching videos, answering quizzes, it's not going to work. Right, it has not proven to work. Even without the whole crisis, it has not worked. It's not going to work because the whole issue is not technology. The whole issue here is all about engagement in that sense. And so measurements, 2 approach, right? One more for the high potentials, right? The leaders, and another different approach, more self-directed due to the spread of the people, but use a gamified approach to keep engagement level, and then measure after that, see if the needle has moved, and if it has moved, what are the next steps going into that. So use both approaches to develop.
Got it. Yeah. So one other question before I pass it on to Muihan is around your experience over the last 3 months, especially. Do you see organizations actually investing and putting money aside in this critical stage right now on cost containment, right now on cash preservation? Do you actually, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think it's a good question to have before us. Do you see organizations actually investing in this at this point in time, Andrew?
Yes and no. I think we need to understand what level of impact the economy, or rather the new ways of working is affecting the industry. So if you talk about hotel, travel industry, I think it's pretty much, no matter what you do, it's going to be very hard for them to invest in this because they are in survival mode, cash conservation mode. Now, apart from these industries, that's affected throughout the whole supply chain, right? Literally everything. Sometimes when a crisis hits, it affects a certain part of your supply chain or a certain part of the business model. But with this, with let's say hospitality and also let's say travel industry, it affects the whole business model. So it's going to be difficult. But now, if we talk about other industries as such, I think they are willing to spend, but you need to show value. All right. So if you're not finding that traction, or you're finding that your customers are not willing to spend, I think it's only because they find that there's no value that you can deliver that will help them there. Right? They may be on a cash conservation mode, but leaders do realize that you need to develop your people to keep your people productive and to grow your people as well, right? But once again, you need to show that you have value creation and you can deliver, and you need to deliver in the right channel. So those who can show value are those that will be able to move ahead in this industry that we are in. Because if we really want to put it bluntly, a lot of what we do is not what we call necessity in that sense. It's a nice to have, well, at least in the eyes of a lot of the industries. So how do you make it in a sense that it's something that's a necessity for the organization itself? Yeah.
So maybe a thought-provoking question, and I just thought about this, and maybe it's also aptly since you say that. I think value creation is definitely a must in that sense. And one thing to look at is also currently we are very much in a cost containment, business sustainability, and I think that's a general theme across all businesses, regardless of which industry you are in. Of course, certain industry will do it more stringently, more desperately, whichever term that applies. But there are also others industry who also want to start to look at from a more general sense. Maybe a quick one, just a fun fact or a fun, since you have been in this industry, any of your clients or potential clients ask you to design a simulation based on cost containment or business sustainability in this kind of scenario that is very challenging and very, so that at least they put their people through it to prepare for it. Are there any? Maybe?
Well, actually, there is an organization that deals with directors of listed companies and such. So we are helping them to create a simulation of sorts to help the directors maneuver through such instances, because a lot of what the directors are facing to a certain extent, it's quite new, and you don't have a lot of room to make mistakes. So a simulation can help you make some of those mistakes in a safe environment. It can simulate how a regulatory body would react, so we simulate those things. And simulations are great because they do a few things, right? I think firstly is it takes the guesswork out of what's going to happen next, because different people can play different roles, right? And then they act out according to their interests. And in that sense, you can see how the dynamics of the environment change. And secondly, simulation also is to find gaps in that sense, to be able to see, all right, this is the whole issue. Because if we just rely on BCP, which is business continuity planning, that's the planning bit, that's fine. But a lot of the discovery will happen in the execution. And with the current model, you execute in your actual business environment and as you go along, right? And you don't have room for error. But we know in such environments where it's volatile, there will always be error. So in a simulator environment, what happens is that you're able to try out those things and find the gaps, and then work on those gaps. So business continuity should be not just about planning, but should be also about execution, right? Practicing execution. That's where you find gaps, and that's where you can skill your people, in order to be prepared for whatever that may come, that you have already prepped in terms of simulation. If you think about it, quick one, fire drills. Why do you do fire drills? Because fires don't happen often, and you don't have time to really do all these things in a sense to try it out again and again. Yeah, so that's what it is essentially in terms of fire drills. Yeah,
Great.
and simulations. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is a very wonderful perspective, and I feel that this whole idea of putting people through the actual situation or the created actual situation or the scenario would be best to actually look at interventions to further improve and enhance. All right. So we got one question from Zorab here. I just want to read to you. Say there's a saying, during bad and challenging or slow times, we should seize opportunity to invest on people development, upskilling and reskilling them in preparing for the better days ahead. What is your perspective, Andrew?
Yeah, I think what happens is that's true, but we also need to remember that marketing organizations are going to say the same. Right now is the time to market because no one else is marketing. People in other industries are going to say so. Everybody's going to push the agenda, and you only have a pot of money in the organization. So once again, if you can show value that investing in your people will bring a lot of change and would bring the company forward, then I think that works well. Of course, I support that notion that people development and investing in people is something which is very important right now. And what we're trying to say also is that right now there's a disruption in the place. So for example, clients which were unavailable to you last time are available to you now, because
Absolutely.
your competitors could deliver well last time, but now they can't, they falter. So there's opportunities there now. Whether your people are skilled enough to take the opportunity, that's where the whole area of us developing your people comes into play. Yeah.
Excellent. I like that. And on that note, bearing in mind that we are cognizant of time here, what would be your last words of advice, Andrew? If we were to ask you, what can you offer as part of a parting advice to business owners, business leaders, and employees alike? What would it be?
Yeah, I think don't stay in a place of indecision, right? So the time to try to figure out what's going on and everything that has passed. It's 2 months. You need to move on, and when you move on, you need to commit. Right? It's the same whether you're a small organization or you're a large organization. It's time to commit. Right? This is what we're going to do. This is the way it's going to be, and this is how we're going to move forward. So you cannot stay in that place and say, let's just wait, let's just see, because as you're doing that, everyone else is moving forward. And secondly, is the thing which I just said, don't look at this as the worst of times, because the worst of times are also the best of times. This is an opportunity for those of us even who may not feel that we are a disruptor type of organization. Whether you like it or not, the environment has changed. You have become a disruptor, right? So opportunities abound, and all you need to do is to be open, to be willing to try out, to be willing to commit, and then be able to grab those opportunities. And at the end of the day, opportunities are never lost. They're only passed on to people who are equipped and who are prepared for it. So, if you don't get it, it doesn't mean it disappears. The opportunity is still there. Someone else grabs it, right? So if you're equipped, your people are productive, your people are agile, your people are empathize with the market and all these things, they are able to grab the opportunity when it comes along. It's not if it comes along, it will come along. Whether your people is prepared, or not, that's another thing altogether. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. I like it. Muihan.
Thank you, Andrew, for your lovely parting words. And we are very grateful to host you this evening to share with us your lovely perspective. We hope to touch base with you some other time in the future, and also to really maybe when post CMCO is done, really sit down and maybe have a cup of coffee. We have not done that for a very long time, so that they really understand what we can actually do together in moving forward. So thank you once again for being here with us, and we will say bye-bye to you for now before we close the show with the rest of the audience. Okay, right. So there it is, Mr. Andrew Lau from ThinkCodex. Maybe two key items which you think we pick up today, Taranjeet?
Absolutely. So again, I've known Andrew for some time. I've had the absolute delight of working with him as well. And a couple of things here that comes out, the area around the 5 skills. It is very evident. We are hearing this over and over again. And today it's becoming in your face. And as how Andrew had put it, the 5 skills: agility, resilience, the whole productivity, analytics, and digital literacy, as well as empathy. Now, absolutely crucial. I like that. What I also like, the takeaway for me is there's no reason why we can't be disruptors in our own right. The fact is the environment has changed, and what can we do differently in order for us to capitalize on this? And Andrew is absolutely spot on. The opportunity is there. It's whether or not we are ready to take that on board. And I like his quote from Dickens. It's a tale of two cities. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. You pick up whichever one you want. These are the things that came out from today's discussion. Muihan?
Okay. So we have come to the end of the show, and we wanted to just maybe share what's coming up next. Allow me to bring up the screen for tomorrow. Tomorrow, definitely, we are very happy to welcome back an old friend, or a friend, not old friend. Every day he's here. So tomorrow we will have the proud pleasure of hosting Mr. Zorab Chong to Elephant in the Room. Maybe Taranjeet, you want to share with us what are we discussing?
Absolutely. So Zorab has been kind enough to take on thoughts around changes. Today we talked about skills. Tomorrow we'll be talking about organizations. What exactly would the organization be going through? We are not going to pontificate. Those times are gone. We're actually going to talk about the reality as what we've started today. What should the organization be looking at? What are the must-dos rather than the like? But these are the things that we need to do. And that's what Zorab will be focusing on when we have him on board tomorrow.
So look forward to see you, Zorab. As usual, we'll be having a very interesting conversation with you. And on Thursday, we have the proud pleasure to host Damiri Petra. And what are we talking to Damiri about?
Okay, so Damiri, absolutely. So a long time back when we first started, Damiri raised a very valid point around agility. And that is a theme that has been recurring from that time till today. The agility of mind, the agility to learn, the agility to respond. And what Damiri will be focusing on is around this whole area on how do we go out there to make ourselves a bit more nimble? How do we talk about dexterity? This was raised earlier with Sean. It was raised earlier with Sean, as well as Ben, as well as Joachim. And that whole dexterity is coming to play. And I'll be very intrigued to hear what Damiri has to say when he approaches this subject. Muihan?
All right. And we will close the week finally on Friday. Together with Malati Kanaga Sapati, all the way calling in from Brisbane. And I think Malati will be spending time with us to look at the perspective of mental health, especially with the entire stress of remote working, of remote team management, as well as running the business virtually. Correct, Taranjeet?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And she is an authority in this, being a CEO and an executive director of one of the NGOs over there. And it'll be intriguing to hear what she has to say about how we can better manage this entire mental health and well-being. And I like what Joachim says, look after our people and our people will bring in the total shareholder returns. And this is one aspect of how we look after our people. Muihan?
So lastly, wanted to just point to you to our YouTube channel, Elephant in the Room. We need maybe your help to actually spread the word around and get us more subscribers. All our episodes are archived here, and you can look them up by number as well as dates. Okay, and we also have provided some additional key learning notes in each episodes in the front. So if you can share this with your friends, get them to check it us out on YouTube, and also maybe share with other people, because there's a lot of rich information and content there. As we say, we have concluded our 35th session for today, or 35th episode for today. So thank you very much again, and we are very happy to be with you this evening. We look forward to see you tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Malaysia time, together with our good friend Zorab Chom. So with that, everybody stay safe and keep practicing social distancing, and be well, be healthy. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.